Hello and welcome to Field Notes, Conversations in Special Education Leadership, the official podcast of MAASE. I'm Abby Seifer, the Executive Director, and I'm so glad that you're here. This podcast is a space for the stories, insights, and innovations shaping the future of special education leadership across Michigan. Whether you're a seasoned administrator, a new director, or somewhere in between, Field Notes is your place to learn, grow, and connect. And as we say in MAASE, you belong here. This week, we're welcoming a guest host, past president Lauren Eardley. Lauren's the manager of special education at National Heritage Academies. Let's get started.
I'm your host, Lauren Eardley, past president of MAASE. Today, I'm excited to sit down with our new president, Kirsten Myers. At this year's Summer Institute, Kirsten shared her presidential theme, United Today, Stronger Tomorrow. It's a message about belonging, leadership, and building the future of our field together. In this conversation, we'll explore what this theme means, how it connects to her leadership journey, and what it calls to each of us to do. Kirsten, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Kirsten, you stepped into the role of MAASE president with the theme United Today, Stronger Tomorrow. Can you share the story of how that theme came to you and why it felt like the right message for this year?
I think one of the best parts about being presidents is coming up with a theme for the year that really promotes what we're going to do together during the course of that year. And for me, I wanted to honor the foundation that Concetta brought with You Belong Here, and certainly you, Lauren, last year with Collective Courage, embracing the power of we. So I wanted to keep that foundation of that collaboration and the spirit of belonging, and then take it to the next level with sort of action and urgency around, really looking at how we can be stronger tomorrow. I also felt that it's more than just a phrase. It's a call to collective responsibility as special education instructional leaders, as MAASE members, as stewards of IDEA, especially considering that we're in the 50th anniversary of IDEA. I think for me, I wanted something that reminded us that progress happens when we move together with shared purpose, really focusing on equity, access, and better outcomes for the students and families and staff that we lead.
Thank you, Kirsten. This really sets the stage for our conversation today. So I want to start by digging into what United Today means for you and for all of us. So when you talk about being united today, what does that look like in practice as a leader and as an association?
I want to start with just responding with, I think leadership in special education can feel isolating in our positions because we are sort of in singleton positions where we carry the weight of state and federal legislation on our shoulders, and not everybody always understands the work that we do. So I think this united today, or the aspect of that part of the phrase or that part of the theme, speaks to the intentional community that we have as special education leaders and that we've built in MAASE. I think in MAASE, everybody feels belonging in a way that works for them, where we can listen and where we can lead together. I want to also just add the Stronger Tomorrow component is sort of the outcome of that unity, and it pushes us forward by coinciding with the need to be stronger tomorrow. It's not just about hope for the future, but more about the responsibility that we have to actively build it. I think the other thing I would want to say when we think about United Today, we have over 1,000 members now. So I think using that, the power of one voice, one powerful community, kind of making real change for students and families, I think is certainly speaks to being united today. The other thing I just want to know, when I came into MAASE a long time ago, I've been in special education leadership for over 20 years, and I was a local district director. I was a director of special education for Rockford Public Schools for over 15 years. And when I was there, I remember how hard it was for me to step away. And so I sort of put MAASE on the back burner. I came to the February attorney panel, but it was one of those things that I convinced myself that I couldn't spare time away because when I did, it was 2 days of catch up. And I can honestly say that if had I been part of MAASE in all of those years when I was a local district leader, I could have been a better director and I could have been provided more for the district that I certainly was in a leadership position for. So when I think about what that means and what it looks like in practice, I think it's about being a part of the community that provides us with so much relative to information and advocacy and knowledge by which to do our jobs better, and to be able to be stronger tomorrow. I don't know, Lauren, what do you think? You've been in a
Yeah.
similar situation. You were the first president for TSA, which I think is super exciting. And what does that mean for you?
So, hearing your story kind of makes me reflect on my own journey as a leader and the ways that relationships really within MACE have showed up for me. To me, coming together today as a leader and as an association is more than just a vision. It's about those concrete actions. So, how do we collaborate? How do we share those resources and leverage those collective perspectives to support all students? So, in my role as manager of special education for National Heritage Academies, I really had the privilege of being able to collaborate with leaders across 10 plus counties, each with different needs and different resources. And as you said, serving as the first charter school president of MACE, this past year really allowed me to extend the collaboration statewide, encouraging those diverse perspectives at the table, advocating for solutions, and then really strengthening the support of our students. And you were talking about your journey and how that started. And mine began like a lot of others. So, as an active member attending Summer Institute, and I think that's what Abby and Renee had said in the first episode of our podcast. And I remember feeling a bit intimidated by the leaders and those who held roles within MACE and wondering how do they even manage those responsibilities alongside the already demanding work that they have day to day. And at that time, I didn't see myself stepping beyond a day-to-day role outside of that. But over the next few years, as I gained that confidence, I was encouraged to co-chair developing leaders. I got involved in the revision or development of the guiding principles, the strategic planning. So I realized that even small steps toward leadership can really have a meaningful impact. And then MACE has also shown me and the importance of building networks and with other leaders and actively engaging as a partner in the work that we do. So there truly is both joy and purpose in this work. And across all of these perspectives that I've gained over the last several years, I've seen that unity in practice means listening across perspectives, bridging differences. It's also about leaning into those collective solutions together. It's about building networks, amplifying every voice, and committing together high quality outcomes for students. So that's being united today, what I think looks like in action.
I love that. Again, it moves us away from us being so singular in our positions back at the local level or at an ISD level, and it moves us into something so much bigger. I just think, again, I go back to what I missed when I was at the local level and didn't attend, and what I've gained by being at the ISD level and being a part of this. It's just having the community and the networking and just the reciprocity that we have with each other. It just makes me a stronger leader. So I'm so appreciative to Mace for that.
Yes, you and me both.
Yep.
So you've described unity as collective leadership anchored in shared purpose. How do you see that showing up in Mace's work this year?
In so many ways, and I certainly see it showing up at the federal and state level, and when we think about our responsibility at the local level or at an ISD level. I'm going to go back to IDEA celebrating its 50 years. And honestly, and I don't know about you, Lauren, but I remain concerned about not just what's written in legislation, but how it's actually implemented in our schools. And too often there's a gap between the intent of the law and the daily reality that our students experience. And that's, I think, where our leadership becomes critical, whereby we need to be holding systems accountable, ensuring implementation that reflects both the spirit and the letter of the law, and really never losing sight of what matters the most. And that's the hard and the hard work. So I think from a big picture perspective, really looking at IDEA and where we're lacking implementation. So that's big picture. I think from a statewide level, looking at MACE, and MACE really carves out the space for us to have deep discussions around policy and practice and procedures and implementation around equity and access. And those conversations don't just live in theory, but it really provides us the opportunity to push us towards solutions that we can bring back to our day jobs. So that's what I love about being a part of MAASE in a lot of different forms. I would say, too, this year, MAASE is also launching the strategic plan, which is going to provide a roadmap into the next several years. And it's going to offer so many opportunities to engage in micro and macro volunteerism that's relative to our shared work as special education leaders from a statewide or, again, when we go back to that ISD or local level.
You emphasize the collaborative nature of United Today. So, how do you see that connecting with my prior year's theme of collaborative courage, embracing the power of we?
In so many ways, I noted that I wanted to honor the foundation of your and previous president's theme. And I think that is what MACE is. Like when we think about collaboration and when we think about the power of we, it emphasizes that we all have similar positions. We're special education instructional leaders. So I that honoring that foundation was really important to me. I think it also sort of that provides that call to action. We're united today. So how do we come together? And you mentioned this, but I think it's going back to the idea that we can engage in MACE in so many different ways and shapes and forms, whether that be in big ways, jumping in to be part of the board, or looking at volunteering in all of the different committees that we have, or just attending the opportunities that we offer, whether that be through our professional learning or our developing leaders, which is so powerful because that's where the action is and that's where you can bring information back to your local districts or ISDs. Or that can be part of our new MACE community, which I'm super excited about. Lauren, I'm trying to really engage in the community by even just commenting on what people say or reading what they say and looking at responses, because that's the opportunity for us to be able to take things back and really spark and promote action pretty quickly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you really did definitely tie in the presidential theme that I had last year, collaborative courage, embracing the power of we. And you summed up the intent of it very well. Like it was definitely focused on amplifying the strength that we gain and working together, taking risks together, leaning into solutions with each other. And I love how your theme, United Today, Stronger Tomorrow, really builds upon not only my theme, but also Concetta's theme, like you indicated, that the theme of you belong here. Your theme really enforces or reinforces the importance of listening across perspectives and bridging those differences and learning from one another. I also think about it's really setting aside those silos and focusing on what can we achieve together collectively, and through that shared commitment and collaborative courage, we really embrace that true power of we because we are united today and therefore we are stronger tomorrow. So I love
I
that.
love I love that you said that because the united today is so critically important, but at some point we have to get to the stronger tomorrow, right? And so you mentioned the silos. And when we think about stronger tomorrow, that's the partnerships we need to have in moving forward with our general education colleagues. And when we think about least restrictive environment and when we think about reducing exclusionary discipline and really trying to significantly decrease the usage of emergency seclusion and restraint, there's so many things that we need our general education colleagues and we need our special education colleagues to do this really hard and hard work. So I think that I agree. The United Today really honored your foundation and others' foundation, but then the Stronger Tomorrow sparks that like urgency and
Right.
the action that we need to actually improve outcomes for the people that we serve.
What are some intentional steps members, especially those who may be newer or hesitant to get involved, can take to strengthen connection and shared purpose?
So I want to go back to my story that I referenced earlier about just getting involved. And that might just be attending, right? Coming to professional learning beyond Summer Institute or being a part of developing leaders in our general membership meetings. And there's so many things that MACE has to offer. So I want to go back to my journey as a local district director in really advocating for those that haven't attended in the past to start this year. You got to start somewhere. And for me, unfortunately, that was later in my career, and it would have provided so much more to being a special education instructional leader had I been part of MACE all those years previous. So I would say, in whatever way works for you, take that first step. And whether that be just attending or micro or macro volunteering on different committees or or just the many things that we offer. So I would say start there. The other thing new this year, and I mentioned previously, is our MAASE community, which provides this online opportunity for us to ask questions, share strategies, celebrate successes in real time. It's another way to ensure that no one's leading alone. So if you haven't already, or I would say this, if you need help in getting up and running, reach out to any of us, because I know that Ben just provided a fact sheet or a tip sheet by just getting on the community. But I
Mhm.
would say if you can just get on the community, create a profile, say hello, then you get access to all of these resources and opportunities to see what's happening around the state, and certainly to take us to that stronger tomorrow within just that one opportunity.
I love a lot of the points that you made, and it really is about putting yourself out there. So introducing yourself to someone new, or sharing your story or making yourself visible, whether that be through the MACE community. Visibility really encourages that dialogue and helps others feel connected. And I can't stress enough of the importance of actively participating in discussions, whether that be through your involvement in community as a practice or developing leaders, or even through Tuesday PL, or simply it's just the networking that you get to have the opportunity through our MACE events. But listening is so important, but contributing, even with that small insight, really helps strengthen that shared purpose.
Agree completely.
Phyllis Wolfram, Executive Director of National Association CASE, has been highlighting the importance of our collective voice and advocacy. So, how do you see United Today connecting with our advocacy efforts, and how can we use that perspective to create the greatest impact?
Gosh, I would say, especially today with the political climate and things that are happening that feel like it's threatening to IDEA and otherwise, I would say now is the time more than ever to get involved with advocacy. And I would say there are many, many ways to do that. And again, that could be just by attending our Wednesday when we think about our developing leaders. There's a lot of ways to really think about advocacy, or our general membership meetings. We have certainly a lot of information that comes to our members through that experience. But I would also say we have our advocacy committee that's led by Aaron Sinkowski and Dave Krantz, and they provide a lot of opportunities to engage in what's happening today relative to ways that we can advocate. I would also say we have My Cells in March, and
Mhm.
that can be very intimidating because we get to face with our legislators. But Aaron and Dave walk us step by step through what that experience is going to look like and how we can be prepared for that. So that is a really fun opportunity. You and I did that a couple of
Yeah,
years ago.
it sure was.
Certainly, I'm excited to do it again in March.
Yes,
The
yes,
other thing is the CELS event in July in Washington, D.C. That takes it to a much more global
yes.
level, and certainly would encourage that opportunity. I think anybody that's done that comes back with just a really I would say excitement about how we can move forward with our advocacy and the positions that we hold. Otherwise, I think it could be very simple. If you're not ready for those opportunities, we provide a lot of opportunity through our news and notes and any legislative effort to just engage directly with your legislators. And we give you the verbiage, give you everything you need by just engaging through email with your local or statewide legislators. I would say we're also seeing the impact of our voice, our MACE voice, through legislative efforts like the recent Medicaid roundtable. Abby provided testimony before the House Appropriations Subcommittee. And certainly, when we think about the power of our MACE voice, we are a large, very large stakeholder group. And Abby sat in front of the State Board of Education and provided our voice just for advocacy around who our next state superintendent would be. So I think so many ways by which to engage around legislative efforts, which
Yes,
is
there really
exciting.
is.
It's part of
Mhm.
being part of MACE.
It truly is. So, if United Today is about who we are right now, then Stronger Tomorrow is about where we're headed. So, let's talk about that vision a little bit more. During your presidential address at Summer Institute, you said, "We're not here to maintain the status quo, but to advance what should be." What does that mean for special education leaders today?
I'm going to provide this response, and it's maybe a little bit might be controversial, but I would say in the past, we have somewhat lived around status quo in special education, unfortunately. And so when I go back to IDEA being in its 50th year and really looking at what is in legislation, how do we move closer to the intent around that legislation? And for me, maintaining the status quo has really never been enough, especially for our students with disabilities. And when I think about going from status quo to status grow, that's advancing what should be. So when we think about building systems that guarantee belonging, access, and opportunity for all students, and this requires us as special education leaders to move beyond compliance and checking boxes, but really into challenging outdated practices or what is considered educational folklore and what's passed around or passed from generation to generation into how can we truly drive transformation. And and from my perspective and the way that I lead is that we still have a lot of work to do if we want to see meaningful outcomes for students with disabilities. And again, I'm going to go back to why MAASE is so important in that space. So it gives us the opportunity to have those hard conversations and to wrestle with what really isn't working and to share resources and innovations and ultimately push for the kind of change that moves us closer to what should be. So again, when I think about status quo, it is about refusing to settle for like good enough
Mhm.
and in moving us into those bold collective action that truly changes the trajectories and the outcomes for our truly marginalized population, our students with disabilities. And then I want to extend that to their families and then extend that certainly to our special educators.
In your message, you specifically called out the need to challenge ableism and move toward neurodivergent affirming practices. So, how do you envision that shift happening in our schools and our districts?
This is challenging, and I've been on this journey for the last several years, and it really requires a shifting of both our mindset and our practices. And instead of asking, how do we fit students into a system? We need to start asking, how do we design systems and environments that honor the diversity of learners? So it's really about celebrating strengths and not just accommodating needs and really getting into the nitty gritty of that when we develop IEPs. So I'm going to move into the kind of the neurodiverse affirming practices. It means that we stop framing differences as deficits. And I think even in special education or when we develop IEPs, we've done that in the past. So that deficit sort of where are the areas of growth? We're so focused on that we don't look at where the strengths are and then what are those skills needed. So I think we need to stop framing differences as deficits and recognizing them as part of the natural spectrum of human variation,
Mhm. Right.
way to put it. And it really looks like building environments where flexibility, accessibility, and belonging is the norm, not the exception. And so when I think about years past and I go back to when I was a local district director, we sort of create IEPs around paperwork or checking boxes.
Yeah.
And we oftentimes are writing goals or writing IEPs that push students into being neurotypical instead of honor the neurodiversity. So when we write IEP goals and objectives, moving away from trying to move them into something that we think they should be and just honoring who they are. I think that's the work in moving forward. But in thinking about that, I think we need to empower our educators with the tools and the training and the support to shift from a compliance mindset into an inclusion mindset. That's the hard work.
It sure is the hard work. I love that. You also talked about courage, about being prepared to lead when decisions are hard or unpopular. What role does courage play in shaping that stronger tomorrow?
I think this is really challenging. It goes back to us feeling somewhat isolated in our positions in our local districts or ISDs. Again, we're shouldering that knowledge. And sometimes courage, well, I'll say this courage is central, but I think sometimes it's hard because we're doing what's right isn't always popular. So it means
Right.
that we're going to have these difficult conversations we're going to question old practices or what could be considered educational folklore or leading change that can feel uncomfortable because we have, and you know this to be true, Lauren, we have these pressures from outside influence, whether it be our administration or
Mhm.
the colleagues that we work with or boards of education or, um, you know, advocacy
Yeah.
working around IEPs. So it's really challenging those outside influences and going back to what ensures our anchor or our decisions are anchored in equity and student well-being, not just convenience or what works for adults in buildings or in spaces or like honoring tradition. So I think that's courage is challenging, especially in our role. I would say also going back to our inner why are we doing this work? It should be, and most oftentimes is centered around students and marginalized population. So we're drawn to this work for a reason. And that courage is what certainly needs to amplify our leadership in being not only united today, but that gets into that stronger tomorrow piece.
You've really painted such a powerful vision for the future, Kirsten. But in your Summer Institute speech, you also shared some personal stories that help us understand where your leadership comes from. So I want to go there for a moment, really quick. In your address, you shared stories about your family, mentors, and experiences that shaped you as a leader. So, how do those influences connect to your theme today?
One thing I didn't say at Summer Institute is I began my career in a more of a self-contained, and I'm going to say this, self-contained is, I'm going to say educational folklore. It's verbiage that we came up with along the way, but if you really look at what self-contained is, it's incredibly negative. So going back to that anti-ableism thing, I think we need to challenge that, even just the verbiage self-contained. But I started my career in an EI program, and that experience, I think, shaped who I am profoundly. I remember the days of fear and exhaustion, but also incredible lessons of resilience and advocacy. So that certainly shaped my educational career. Prior to that, I've been around education my entire life. My grandmother was a elementary educator, and she certainly was a courageous leader and inspiring female leader, I'll say. And I was also, my mom was a school social worker. So I've been around special education my entire life, and I was a peer, I was a link. So I think those experiences and certainly taught me or gave me the passion throughout my lifetime to do the work that I do. It also gave me empathy for educators, certainly urgency for students with disabilities. They are fit into that marginalized population. So I've always been sort of advocating and am inspired to advocate along my entire, I guess, my entire life.
I think our personal journeys and the stories that we carry are truly incredibly powerful, and they really shape who we are as leaders and who we become. And when I listened to your address and you're talking about your personal story, I was kind of reminded of my own, and I did share a little bit about that when I during my presidential address of my fourth grade teacher who saw my past struggles and believed in me. And she didn't just teach me, she advocated. And we've talked a lot about that, the importance of that. And she worked with others to support me as well and making sure that I felt seen and valued. And I think it's that experience that taught me the power of people coming together with courage and purpose, which really truly inspired and ignited my theme of collective courage, embracing the power of we. And I learned early that when we support and uplift one another, we can accomplish so much more together. And I think that same lesson definitely resonates deeply with the theme of United Today, Stronger Tomorrow. Just as her courage and collaboration changed the trajectory of my life, our collective courage, the collaboration that we can engage in, and the unity can strengthen our communities and then also help us build a future that's stronger together.
I love that, Lauren. And you know what? It's interesting that we found out that we both have a tie to Rockford because I
Yeah.
was the director there previous to my position at Chem ISD. But when you mentioned that fourth grade teacher, I know her. So it
Mhm.
has a profound impact on me because she's the type of general education leader,
Yeah.
teacher that really embraces understanding the differences of learners, providing an environment that inspires belonging
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
has that universal design for learning that we hope for
Yeah.
for all of our classrooms. So I love that you brought her up because we certainly share that experience in
Yeah.
common.
Prime example.
Yeah.
As you look at the next generation of leaders in MACE, how do you hope to inspire and support them?
So I think this is a great question because I think it's on us and for the students and families that we serve, it's on us to get it right. So I would say that first and foremost. And in order to do that, I lean on my experiences and my colleagues at MACE because that network for me is how I've grown both personally and professionally. So, in order to get it right, I really need to lean on those that are doing the same work to really do the hard work. So, I would say that first and foremost. Additionally, I think I would want our next generation of leaders to know that they're not alone and
Mhm.
it's not about having all the answers. I don't think any of us do at any given time, but it's about showing up with integrity and courage and curiosity to be able to be stronger tomorrow. So, I guess for me, I hope to model and create spaces where new leaders feel supported to grow so that they can do the hard work and be stronger tomorrow. Because ultimately, I think we're all in the space to want to increase outcomes for the students and families that we serve. And in order to increase outcomes, we need to, as I said before, move beyond compliance, but really get into the meaningful work. How do we create IEPs that are meaningful? How do we create transition plans that go beyond being routine, right?
Right, right.
Move us into what is the post-secondary vision and what is our obligation alongside our students and our families to get students there. So I would say, I think that's really fun work. I think that's the important work. I always say, what's special about special education? It's that, right? So, and then I would say, again, I think when we go back to that MACE community that's new this year, that's this online opportunity for us to have dialogue, for us to be able to provide those resources, those opportunities. And so if you're new to MACE, if you're new to being a special education leader, use the MACE community and ask questions because we are all there to support each other.
Yeah, I love that you emphasize the importance of you're not in this alone. And you and I have been doing this for, several years. And there is something every year that pops up of what am I supposed to, how am I going to navigate this? So yes, leaning on the community is so important. So I really appreciate you sharing your stories. They're truly inspiring. And I want to bring it home by focusing on what you want our members to do with this message and how they can put this into practice. As you concluded your address, you left members with some reflection questions like, who might be feeling left out or unheard, and how can we bring them in? And I found myself reflecting on those questions in my own work and thinking about colleagues or teams who may not always have a voice at the table and what I can do to ensure that their voices are heard. What do you hope members take away when they reflect on those questions?
So I think this has been the work that we have been doing in the last couple of years. And I think it's so important. I'm glad you asked this question actually. I would say when I ask who might be feeling left out or unheard and how can we bring them in, I want members to pause and really notice because every meeting, every decision, every classroom, there is always someone on the margins. And how can we ensure that they are brought into the center of the conversation? I think this also reflects on shifting our mindset from do with, not for.
Hmm.
And too often in education, especially in special education, I'm going to use what we do, what our day job is, and it's creating these IEPs. And I think when we create these IEPs, we need to ensure that our student and our family voices are truly at the heart of this process. And unfortunately, I think over the years, we've gotten very technical. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but kind of the checking of the boxes that doesn't provide opportunities for students and families to engage in a meaningful way. So when I think about the development of and the progress towards the future, being stronger tomorrow, how can we ensure that our students and our family voices are really central to the development of these IEPs? Because I think that's really critically important. I also want to say, and I mentioned this at Summer Institute, but we should be representing the community, the disabled community. And this is especially critical. So making sure that the language that we use and the representation of our disabled community is at the forefront of our work because that shapes the belonging, the identity, the dignity, thinking about neurodiversity. I think that's really important. So my hope is that members can reflect on how to create spaces where students and families don't just have a seat at the table, but they have influence, agency, and ownership in shaping the outcomes, really towards meaningful outcomes. Again, that's the stronger tomorrow piece of the theme. So I think when we lead with inclusion and partnership and respect for voice, and that includes the disabled community, that we not only honor dignity, but we create stronger systems that actually work for the people that they're designed to serve.
I appreciate you sharing that reminder and reinforcing the importance of that responsibility and the power that we hold in creating that space for others. Because there are always colleagues and teams whose voices might not naturally rise to the surface. And sometimes it takes that intentional effort and courage to invite them. And I hope members walk away seeing that leadership isn't just about sharing your own voice, but about amplifying the voice of others, especially those who may feel overlooked. And when we approach our work with that mindset, I think it shifts the dynamic from me to we. And that's where real collaboration and collective strength begin.
I love that. And when we create guidance and when we have resources and we provide professional learning, I think the voice, again, I'm going to go back to the disabled community. I want to make sure that we are amplifying the voice of the community and
Hmm.
that we're ensuring, again, and then I want to go back to just ensuring that our students and families are meaningfully engaged. So as we think about our action forward, how can we ensure that the voices are in the room and that we're doing the right work?
Looking ahead, how do we continue to keep a sense of urgency around these concepts of being united today and stronger tomorrow?
I think I'm those that know me, I think I said this before, but I'm incredibly passionate. And I also feel this great sense of urgency. And I think the reason that I feel that way is keeping a sense of urgency begins with remembering what's at stake. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? And that goes back to think about that 50 years of IDEA and the intent of the legislation and the fact that the intent in many of our schools is not there yet. And
Mhm.
students and families don't have the luxury of waiting for systems to catch up. So they really need to, for us to act with purpose today. So I feel a deep sense of urgency around this work because years and years go by very quickly. So I think we have this amazing opportunity to be special education leaders, instructional leaders, I'll say, and we have this amazing opportunity to be part of MAASE, 1,000 members strong. So if not today, when?
Right.
So I'm really excited about this year because that sense of urgency, I think together we can get to that action and get to those really meaningful outcomes. I would say here's the thing. Urgency doesn't have to mean, again, you said this in your theme, certainly linked to United Today, doesn't mean we have to do it alone. And in fact,
Yes.
we can't.
Right.
Again,
Oh, 100%.
cannot do it alone. So I think that urgency means that we're going to lean on each other, that we're going to share resources statewide, amplifying what works, and lifting each other up. So I think that's the spirit of MACE, right?
Yep. Yep. It sure is. How do you hope MACE members will live out this theme over the course of the year? And how might that in turn positively impact the association as a whole?
So I think if we consistently live out this idea of being united today, unity, collaboration, the power of we with your presidency, and then you couple that with courage, I don't think we'll not only strengthen MACE, but I think we'll strengthen the entire educational system, right? So moving towards really working with our general education partners and really thinking about what LRE means. And it's really about creating environments that provides equity and accessibility and belonging in every single classroom. And I think when our association is united in shared purpose and bold leadership, that ripple effect is just better for our members, for our students and our families and staff across all of Michigan.
Kirsten, I was Our last question, which is a surprise question for you. At the start of a new school year, with all its energy, its fresh opportunities, and its excitement, alongside the busy pace that can sometimes feel overwhelming, what keeps you going on the tough days? Is there like a word or a phrase or a quote that motivates you, reminds you of the importance of your work that could inspire those listening today?
Usually I'm not at a loss for words, so that's a good one, Lauren. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think for me, if it's not now, then when? If it's not us, then who? So I sort of lead in that space. For me, I rely on the family around me, not just my family at home, but certainly my family. I mean, for me, here at Kent ISD, we share the same values and belief around this work. And I would say I'm going to extend that to MAASE as well. So when you can share the same values and beliefs, I truly believe that anything is possible. So I would say if not now, then when? And if not me or us, then who? I think that's what keeps me passionate and rooted in urgency. And when days are really, really hard, like going to those around me and saying, okay, this is what's happening. Give me some energy. And
Yeah.
certainly my tribe and the people around me support me to do that work. So that's a great question. I think we've got to lean on each other, not just personally, but professionally. And MAASE gives us that opportunity to do that each and every day. I'll say this, Lauren. I think through MAASE, you and I have grown so much closer, and I know that in this presidency this year, you have given me so much to think about, and you check in on me, and again, that's just the power of our community and like
Yeah.
doing this hard work together. I would say, thank you, because you are part of that tribe and part of what in the tough and the hard days going in my leadership. I'm gonna turn it
Thank
back to
you.
you, and certainly thank you for being part of my community.
Thank you, Kirsten.
You are so
Thank
welcome.
you for sharing your vision and leading us with such clarity and purpose. And your theme, United Today, Stronger Tomorrow, is more than just words. It's a challenge and an invitation for all of us at MACE. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Field Notes. We hope that you're inspired to connect, to contribute, and to lead with courage in your own space. And until next time, let's continue to be united today so we can be stronger tomorrow.
Thanks, Lauren.